Let me tell you something real. 6 months is not a long time, but it's long enough to completely change who you are if you stop playing with your life and start taking it seriously. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack direction, discipline, and patience. They want overnight success, but they don't want overnight sacrifice. Today is about changing that mindset. This is not motivation for a moment. This is a blueprint for transformation. If you commit to the next 6 months with intention, focus, and consistency, you won't recognize the person you used to be. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Real transformation never begins with motivation, inspiration, or even a detailed plan. It begins with a hard, honest decision. A moment where you look at your life exactly as it is, your habits, your results, your routines, your excuses, and you finally admit that what you're living is not what you're capable of. This decision is not emotional hype. It's not driven by a good speech or a temporary burst of energy. It's a quiet but powerful internal shift where you draw a line and say, this version of me is no longer acceptable. Most people stay stuck not because life is unbearable, but because it is just comfortable enough. They survive, so they settle. They tolerate average results, average effort, and average thinking, convincing themselves that things will magically change someday. But comfort slowly becomes a cage. When you accept your current situation without resistance, you train your mind to believe that this is all you deserve. Growth only begins when staying the same starts to feel more painful than changing. Deciding that your old life is no longer acceptable means taking full ownership of where you are. No blaming circumstances, people, background, or luck. It means understanding that even if certain things weren't your fault, they are now your responsibility. This mindset shift is critical because excuses protect the old version of you, while responsibility forces the new version to be built. Once you make this decision, excuses start to sound weak, distractions lose their appeal, and wasting time begins to feel uncomfortable. This decision also changes how you see effort. Before, effort felt optional. After the decision, effort becomes non-negotiable. You stop asking how hard something is and start asking how badly you want to change. You realize that discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's proof that you're finally doing something different. Late nights, early mornings, sacrifices, discipline, and patience. Stop feeling like punishments and start feeling like investments. What makes this decision powerful is that it doesn't depend on immediate results. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't even need confidence at first. You move forward because you've internally committed to outgrowing who you used to be. This is where consistency is born. When your identity shifts from this is who I am to this is who I'm becoming, your actions naturally begin to align with that belief. Many people wait for clarity before they decide, but clarity often comes after commitment. The decision creates momentum. It sharpens your focus and forces your priorities into alignment. You stop negotiating with bad habits. You stop entertaining self-doubt. You may still feel fear, but fear no longer controls your choices. The old life loses its grip because you've mentally closed the door on it. A simple example illustrates this clearly. Imagine someone who feels stuck in the same job, same routine, same financial stress year after year. They complain, dream, and wait, but nothing changes. One day, instead of just feeling frustrated, they make a firm decision. I refuse to live like this anymore. That decision leads them to wake up earlier, learn a new skill after work, say no to distractions, and stay consistent even when progress is slow. Nothing changes overnight, but everything changes internally. 6 months later, they're more disciplined, more skilled, and closer to opportunities they once thought were impossible. All because they decided that their old life was no longer acceptable. That decision is the starting point of every real transformation. Once it's made, there's no going back, only forward. Real progress demands focus, and focus demands sacrifice. One of the hardest but most necessary steps in transforming your life is cutting off distractions without apology. Most people underestimate how much their time, energy, and mental space are being drained every single day. Distractions don't always look obvious. Sometimes they come disguised as comfort, entertainment, familiar routines, or even relationships that feel safe, but keep you stagnant. If you are serious about building a new life, You cannot keep feeding the habits that created the old one. Distractions pull you away from your purpose in small, silent ways. They steal minutes that turn into hours, hours that turn into days, and days that quietly become years. Scrolling without intention, conversations with no direction, environments that encourage laziness, and habits that provide instant pleasure but long-term regret all chip away at your potential. You don't feel the damage immediately, which is why they are so dangerous. By the time you realize how far behind you are, momentum has already been lost. Cutting off distractions is not about becoming cold or isolated. It's about becoming intentional. You start asking yourself hard questions. Does this help me grow? Does this move me closer to my goals? Does this version of my routine respect the future I say I want? If the answer is no, then keeping it in your life is a form of self-sabotage. Growth requires space, and distractions take up that space. When your mind is constantly scattered, your energy is divided, and divided energy creates weak results. Many people hesitate to remove distractions because they fear being judged. They worry about what others will say when they stop showing up the same way, responding the same way, or entertaining the same nonsense. But discipline often looks like distance to people who don't understand your vision. When you stop explaining yourself and start protecting your focus, some people will call you selfish, arrogant, or distant. In reality, you're just no longer available for things that don't serve your growth. This process also demands emotional strength. Letting go of distractions means letting go of comfort. It means choosing silence over noise, discipline over pleasure, and long-term progress over short-term escape. It means being okay with boredom sometimes, because boredom often creates clarity. In those quiet moments, you start hearing your own thoughts, refining your goals, and reconnecting with what actually matters. Cutting off distractions sharpens your discipline. Your time becomes more valuable because you're no longer wasting it. Your energy increases because it's no longer being drained in every direction. Your confidence grows because you're keeping promises to yourself, and most importantly, your actions start aligning with the future you're trying to build. Focus creates momentum, and momentum creates results. It's important to understand that this is not a one-time action, it's a daily choice. Distractions will always try to re-enter your life. Old habits will knock. Old environments will call you back. The difference is that once you commit to protecting your focus, you become more aware of what costs you your progress. You start eating growth automatically, not because it's easy, but because you've decided that your future is worth more than your comfort. A simple example makes this clear. Imagine someone who wants to improve their skills and income, but spends every evening lost in social media, random conversations, and mindless entertainment. One day, they decide to cut those distractions. They limit their phone use, stop engaging in draining conversations, and dedicate that same time to learning and self-improvement. At first, it feels uncomfortable and lonely, but within weeks, their focus improves. Within months, their skills grow. Opportunities begin to appear, not because of luck, but because their attention is finally aligned with their goals. When you cut off distractions without apology, you send a powerful message to yourself. My future matters. And once that message is clear, everything begins to change. Most people wait to feel motivated before they take action, but that mindset is exactly what keeps them stuck. Motivation is emotional, temporary, and unreliable. It depends on mood, energy, circumstances, and inspiration. Discipline, on the other hand, is a system. It is the ability to act regardless of how you feel. When you build discipline before motivation, you stop allowing your emotions to control your progress. And that shift alone can completely change the direction of your life. Discipline means you show up even when you don't feel like it. You work when you're tired, unfocused, or discouraged. You do the work when there is no applause, no recognition, and no immediate reward. This is where most people fall off, because they confuse excitement with commitment. Excitement fades quickly, but discipline creates momentum. Once momentum is built, motivation often follows naturally, not the other way around. The truth is, if you rely on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. Some days you'll work hard, and other days you'll do nothing. That inconsistency weakens self-trust. Over time, you stop believing your own promises because deep down you know you only act when it feels easy. Discipline restores that trust. Every time you do what you said you would do, especially when it's uncomfortable, You strengthen your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who finishes what they start. Building discipline also changes how you view pain and discomfort. Instead of seeing them as signs to stop, you begin to see them as part of the process. Discipline teaches you that growth is supposed to be uncomfortable. Long-term success always demands short-term sacrifice. When you choose discipline, you are choosing delayed gratification, knowing that the reward will be far greater than the temporary pleasure you gave up. Another powerful aspect of discipline is that it levels the playing field. Talent, luck, and intelligence can give people a head start, but discipline outperforms all of them over time. A disciplined person with average ability will always surpass a talented person who lacks consistency. Discipline compounds. Small actions done daily, without excuses, create massive results over months and years. This is why discipline is not flashy, but it is unstoppable. Discipline also protects you during hard seasons. When motivation disappears, and it will, discipline keeps you moving. When progress feels slow, discipline keeps you consistent. When doubt creeps in, discipline keeps you grounded in action instead of emotion. You don't need to feel confident to act. Action builds confidence, not the other way around. Most importantly, discipline gives you control over your life. Instead of being controlled by impulses, distractions, and moods, you become intentional. You decide when you work, when you rest, and what you give your energy to. That sense of control builds inner strength and self-respect. You no longer depend on external validation or inspiration to move forward. A short example makes this clear. Imagine someone who wants to get physically fit. At first, they feel motivated and excited, working out for a few days. Then life gets busy, energy drops, and motivation fades. In the past, they would quit, but this time they commit to discipline. They go to the gym even on low energy days. They show up even when progress feels slow. Weeks later, their body starts changing. Their confidence grows and motivation returns naturally. Not because they waited for it, but because they earned it through discipline. When you build discipline before motivation, you stop negotiating with your goals. You move with purpose, not emotion. And in 6 months, that discipline will take you further than motivation ever could. Most people stay financially stuck, not because they don't work hard, but because their effort is scattered. They chase too many things at once, hoping something will work. But in the process, they never become valuable at anything. Mastering one skill that changes your income is about focus, depth, and long-term leverage. When you concentrate your energy on one high-value skill, you stop running in circles and start moving forward with purpose. A skill is powerful because it gives you control. Jobs can be lost, businesses can fail, and circumstances can change, but a well-developed skill stays with you. It becomes an asset you carry everywhere. When you master a skill that solves real problems or creates real value, money becomes a byproduct of usefulness, not luck. The marketplace doesn't reward intention or effort alone. It rewards competence. Focusing on one skill forces you to slow down and go deep. Instead of learning a little about many things, you commit to learning everything. About one thing, you study it daily. You practice when others get bored. You improve when others quit. This depth is what separates amateurs from professionals. While others are distracted by shortcuts and quick wins, you are building something solid, something that compounds over time. Mastery also builds confidence. When you know you are good at something, you move differently. You speak differently. You negotiate differently. You stop feeling desperate for opportunities and start attracting them. People trust those who are skilled, and trust opens doors. One mastered skill can create multiple income streams, but it starts with obsession, patience, and consistency. Another reason mastering one skill is so powerful is that it creates leverage. Leverage means you can earn more without trading more hours for money. When your skill is rare, in demand, or difficult to replace, your value increases. You gain the ability to choose better opportunities, work with better people, and design your life with more freedom. Hustling nonstop without leverage only leads to burnout. Skill creates efficiency and sustainability. This process requires humility and discipline. At first, progress feels slow. You may feel behind others who seem to be doing more. But mastery is quiet before it's loud. The early stage is about repetition, failure, and refinement. Every mistake sharpens your understanding. Every challenge strengthens your ability. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes second nature, and that's when your skill begins to pay you back. It's also important to understand that mastering one skill doesn't limit you. It multiplies you. Once you are strong in one area, learning additional skills becomes easier because you've developed focus, patience, and learning discipline. But without that first foundation, everything else remains shallow. A short example makes this clear. Imagine someone who wants to improve their income but keeps jumping from idea to idea, learning a little and quitting quickly. One day they decide to focus on a single skill, such as digital design. They study it every day after work, practice consistently, and learn from those already succeeding. At first there is no money, but after months of focused effort, their skill improves, people begin to notice, and opportunities start appearing. What changed wasn't luck, it was mastery. When you master one skill that changes your income, you stop chasing money and start attracting it. You build leverage instead of stress. And over 6 months of focused commitment, that one decision can shift your financial direction for years to come. Your future is not decided by big moments or rare opportunities. It is built quietly through the routines you follow every single day. What you do consistently shapes who you become. A daily routine that respects your future is one that aligns your present actions with the life you say you want tomorrow. If your habits don't support your goals, then no amount of dreaming, planning, or motivation will save you. You may feel busy, but you'll remain stuck because your daily life is moving in the opposite direction of your vision. When you wake up without purpose, the day controls you. You react instead of lead. Time slips away through distractions, urgency, and other people's priorities. But when you wake up with intention, even something simple like a clear plan for the day, you take ownership of your time. You begin sending a message to yourself that your future matters enough to be prepared for. Purposeful mornings create focused days, and focused days create progress. Moving your body is not just about physical health, it's about mental discipline. Physical movement sharpens your mind, improves your energy, and builds resilience. Well, you train your body to do hard things, your mind follows. Skipping this step may seem small, but over time it weakens your consistency and lowers your standards. A routine that respects your future understands that energy is currency, and protecting your energy is essential for long-term success. Feeding your mind daily is just as important. Whatever you consistently consume mentally becomes your inner voice. If your mind is filled with noise, negativity, and comparison, your confidence and clarity suffer. Reading, learning, listening to something meaningful, even for a short time, keeps your thinking sharp and your vision clear. Growth doesn't come from random information, but from intentional input that challenges and expands how you think. Planning your day turns effort into direction. Without a plan, you may work hard but still feel lost. A plan doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be clear. Knowing your priorities helps you avoid wasting energy on tasks that don't matter. Planning is an act of self-respect because it means you value your time enough to decide how it will be used instead of letting it be taken. Ending your night with reflection completes the cycle. Reflection builds awareness. It helps you recognize what worked, what didn't, and where you need to improve. Without reflection, mistakes repeat themselves. With reflection, every day becomes a lesson instead of just another blur of activity. This habit keeps you honest with yourself and aligned with your long-term vision. The truth is, success isn't random, it's scheduled. People who seem disciplined are not superhuman. They've simply designed routines that make progress unavoidable. On the other hand, when your daily habits are built around comfort, distraction, and avoidance, you are quietly working against your future. You may say you want more, but your routine says otherwise. Your routine is your real priority, not your words. A simple example shows this clearly. Imagine two people with the same goal of improving their life. One wakes up late, scrolls aimlessly, reacts to the day, skips learning, and ends the night exhausted with no reflection. The other wakes up with a plan, moves their body, spends time learning, focuses on key tasks, and reflects at night. After one day, the difference seems small. After 6 months, the gap is massive, not because one is more talented, but because one built a routine that respected their future. When you design your daily routine with intention, you stop hoping for change and start building it. Day by day, those small disciplined actions stack up, and before you realize it, the future you once imagined starts becoming your reality. Real growth often comes with a level of loneliness that most people are not prepared for. When you begin to change, your priorities shift, your habits evolve, and your mindset deepens. The problem is that not everyone around you is ready or willing to grow at the same pace. As a result, the version of you that once fit comfortably into certain circles begins to feel out of place. Conversations no longer excite you. Routines you once enjoyed start to feel empty, and environments that once felt familiar begin to limit you. This loneliness is not a punishment, it is a transition. When you focus on improving your life, people may misunderstand your silence, your discipline, or your distance. Some will say you've changed, as if growth is a negative thing. Others will label you obsessed because they cannot relate to your level of commitment. What they are really reacting to is your refusal to stay the same. Your growth challenges their comfort, and instead of facing that discomfort, they project it onto you. This is why loneliness becomes part of the process. It creates space between who you were and who you are becoming. Loneliness forces self-reflection. When you are no longer surrounded by constant noise, opinions, and distractions, you are left with your own thoughts. This can feel uncomfortable at first because silence reveals truth. It shows you your fears, your doubts, and your unfinished work, but it also reveals your vision more clearly. In solitude, you begin to understand what you truly want, not what others expect from you. This clarity is essential for long-term success. There is also strength built in walking alone. When you stop relying on external validation, you develop inner confidence. You learn to trust yourself, make decisions independently, and stay committed even when no one is cheering you on. This kind of mental toughness cannot be taught. It is earned through isolation, consistency, and self-belief. Loneliness teaches you to become your own source of motivation. It's important to understand that embracing loneliness does not mean rejecting people or becoming cold. It means accepting that not everyone can come with you on every level of your journey. Some people are meant to be part of your past, not your future. Holding on to them out of fear of being alone only slows your progress. Growth requires alignment, and misaligned relationships drain energy instead of fueling it. Many people quit during this phase because they mistake loneliness for failure. They think something is wrong because they feel isolated. In reality, this phase often appears right before a breakthrough. It's the space where discipline is built, skills are sharpened, and character is formed. When you stay committed during lonely seasons, you prove to yourself that your vision matters more than comfort. Every meaningful transformation includes moments where it feels like it's just you and the goal. These moments test your commitment. Are you doing teach? Is it because it's popular or because it's necessary? Are you willing to keep going when no one understands the process? Loneliness answers these questions honestly. A short example makes this clear. Imagine someone who decides to focus on building a better future. They stop going out every night, reduce meaningless conversations, and spend more time learning and working. Friends begin to drift away. Invitations slow down. At first, the silence feels heavy. In that quiet, they gain focus, confidence, and clarity. Months later, their progress speaks louder than explanations ever could. The loneliness didn't break them, it built them. Embracing loneliness is not about isolation forever, it's about preparation. It's the season where you grow into the person who can later stand strong, lead confidently, and live with purpose. If you can survive being alone with your vision, you are strong enough to achieve it. Patience and relentlessness are the qualities that separate those who talk about change from those who actually achieve it. Most people quit too early, not because their efforts aren't working, but because the results aren't visible fast enough. Real progress is often silent. It happens beneath the surface, where habits are forming, discipline is strengthening, and identity is shifting. Just because you can't see immediate proof doesn't mean the process isn't working. It means the foundation is being built. Patience is not passive waiting, it is controlled belief. It is continuing to show up even when there is no reward, no recognition, and no reassurance. Many people confuse patience with weakness, but patience actually requires strength. It takes strength to keep going when nothing seems to change. It takes mental toughness to trust the process when doubt tries to convince you that your effort is wasted. Impatience pushes people to quit, change direction too, quickly, or chase shortcuts that lead them right back to where they started. Relentlessness is what gives patience its power. Being relentless means you don't stop just because the journey gets uncomfortable. You don't take breaks from discipline just because motivation disappears. You don't lower your standards because progress feels slow. You keep moving forward, adjusting when necessary, but never abandoning the mission. Relentlessness is quiet consistency, the decision to show up every day regardless of mood, energy, or external validation. When patience and relentlessness work together, they create momentum. At first, progress feels slow because you are breaking old patterns and building new ones. Old habits resist change. Your mind looks for familiar comfort. But every small win matters. Every disciplined action stacks on top of the last. Over time, these small wins compound. And what once felt insignificant becomes unstoppable growth. This is why consistency beats intensity. A little effort done daily will always outperform extreme effort done occasionally. One of the hardest parts of staying patient is accepting delayed gratification. In a world that celebrates instant results, waiting feels uncomfortable. But the most meaningful transformations take time. Skills take time to develop. Confidence takes time to build. Respect takes time to earn. If you rush the process, you skip the lessons. If you trust the process, you gain strength along with results. The wait shapes you into the kind of person who can actually handle success when it arrives. Relentlessness also protects you from your past. 6 months of focused, disciplined effort can undo years of poor decisions, bad habits, and wasted time. Not because time magically fixes everything, but because consistent action creates new momentum. When you stay relentless, you stop giving your past power over your future. You stop identifying with who you used to be and start aligning with who you're becoming. Doubt will always try to enter during quiet phases. You'll question whether you're doing enough, whether it's worth it, whether you should stop. This is where patience becomes a weapon. Instead of reacting emotionally, you stay grounded in routine and action. You remind yourself that progress is not always visible, but it is always happening when effort is consistent. You learn to trust yourself more than your temporary feelings. A short example shows this clearly. Imagine someone who decides to improve their life by developing discipline and a new skill. For the first few weeks, nothing seems to change. No recognition, no big results. Doubt creeps in. In the past, they would quit. But this time they stay patient and relentless. They keep practicing daily, improving little by little. After a few months, their confidence grows. Opportunities begin to appear. Others suddenly notice their progress. What looked like overnight success was actually months of quiet effort. Staying patient and relentless means understanding that the grind is shaping you before it rewards you. If you can stay consistent when results are invisible, you won't just change your situation. You'll change who you are. And once that happens, success becomes inevitable. 6 months from now, you'll be in one of two places. Either wishing you had started or thanking yourself for not quitting. No one is coming to save you. No perfect moment is waiting for you. This is the moment. Lock in. Stay focused. Play the long game. Because when you transform your habits, your mindset, and your discipline, your life has no choice but to follow. Start today. Stay solid. Finish strong.